welcome along to the Following On podcast, following the second T20 international of the 5-match series between the West Indies and England, and what a game it was in Barbados. The West Indies winning the toss and putting England into bat once again. England posted 171 for 8. Jason Roy top scoring with 45 from 31 deliveries. Moeen Ali with 31 from 24, and Chris Jordan 27 from 15. And we thought England had posted a more than competitive total, and so it turned out. So the West Indies very nearly managed to chase it down. They managed to put 170 for 8 on the board to lose by just a single run. Romario Shepherd, 44 from 28 balls, 1 4 and 5 sixes. Akil Hussain, 44 not out from 16 balls, 3 4s and 4 sixes, but it wasn't quite enough. In the bowling column, Moeen Ali 3 for 24 from his 4 overs, Adil Rashid 2 for 24 from 4, Reece Topley took 1, Chris Jordan took 1. Reece Topley into the side for England in the only change in the lineups, in the two sides actually from the first match. Tamar Mills sitting this one out with Reece Topley playing his first T20 international since March of 2016. We will be hearing from Reece, by the way, in the next few minutes. He will be joining us on the show. So there we go, 1-1 after 2, and Gareth Batty, it was a stunning game of cricket. It was a really good game of cricket, different pitch to the first one, and I've got to say, I think the match benefited from the surface that we got today.
Yeah, it certainly was. Much better for the stroke play. It was incredible, really, how it finished. We'll touch on that later, but I think how England set the innings up, I thought Jason Roy was very good, a little bit out of character in that it wasn't all crash bang wallop up front. He was very precise, played beautifully. Took it to that point where he just dropped the hammer and took Allen for 24 in the over, and you just felt like, oh, if that could have gone another 2 overs, England would have posted maybe another 15 or 20 on the total, and then it would have been completely game over. So I think from a batting point of view, you're pretty much saying England learnt from their mistakes and moved forward quite nicely. A little cameo again from Jordan at the end. Moeen Ali played very nicely. It was good. You would say that was a workmanlike total. But I think to have let the West Indies in like England did there with the bowling, I think England have won the game, but I think that changing room will have a few nerves kicking around and a few sort of doubts in the mind.
The England middle order didn't really get going, as we mentioned. Jason Roy, 45 from 31. I'll tell you what, let's come back to that thought in a minute. Let's hear from Moeen Ali, who's speaking with Mark Butcher.
Now, after what we saw there at the very end, but first and foremost, brilliant partnership between yourself and Jason Roy. What was the conversation around about drinks? Because you guys lit the blue touch paper after that.
Yeah, Jason's going really well. I was actually quite fortunate with the way I batted, and I just tried to hang in there as much as I could with him, tried to pick my areas, and it was a very difficult wicket, and I thought Jace stepped it up beautifully when we needed to, and it was a crucial partnership, I think, in the context of the game.
Do you guys feel that you kind of paced the innings a little bit better today? You know, you obviously had some lessons to learn after the first game, but you managed to post what turned out to be a par score on that deck today.
Yeah, and we actually thought we got a really good score in the end, but obviously they played well, but I thought we paced it better today. We gave ourselves a bit of time. Each batter went in trying to give 5 to 6 balls and then hopefully build a partnership, but I thought we started well, which was great, and then CJ at the end played a great knock.
And then moving on to the ball, it's the third time, I think, in your last 8 T20 internationals that you've gone past your career best. It now stands at 3 for 24. You're really loving life with the ball at the moment.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, obviously you're a lot more clearer now without playing red ball and things like that, but it's a great wicket to bowl on. But the batters are so dangerous, you never quite win the game with the way they played, and I thought me and Rash bowled quite nicely in that middle period.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Yourself and Rash have got a real partnership going, able to build pressure from both ends, and of course the way that he can turn the ball both ways, you have a real good time bowling against the left-handers. You're able to really squeeze it in the middle there. Yeah,
and we've played quite a bit together now, and his bowling, I thought after his first over was fantastic. I thought he read the surface really well after that, and the way he was spinning the ball, he makes it easier for me actually, because guys then come after me, and sometimes you get hit and sometimes you pick up wickets.
Okay, well, many congratulations to you. Beautifully played, beautifully batted, well bowled, and we will see you on Wednesday.
Thank you very much.
Don't forget to take the check.
Moeen Ali gets the check because he is the player of the match for his 31 from 24 balls, and as Mark Butcher said there, he also recorded his career best for T20 internationals, 3 for 24 from 4 overs. Right, let's also now hear from the West Indian skipper Kyron Pollard speaking with Butch.
Pretty quickly, you must have thought you were dead and buried there with 5 overs to go.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, in the middle phase, they were while our batting. We started our batting first. Thought after losing 5 wickets, we lose about 3 wickets in clusters. When these things tend to happen, you tend to struggle. So the way the guys fought in the back end, obviously we knew what the guys can do in the back end. These guys can hit the ball a long way, and the faith and the confidence that Akil has, he has been working on his batting. Is tremendous. But spare word for Shepherd as well. The way that he batted it again, he did it in a series before, and he's showing that he's wanting to put up his hand and take responsibility.
So that the area then perhaps for you as a team and a batting lineup is the way that you go about playing spin in those middle overs. It's cost you before, and it's cost you again here today.
Yeah, it has. It has been a ton, for us. But as I said, we are working hard. We are working hard on it. And we will overcome it because I can see the confidence. Even with the guys in the dressing room, even myself. We're working diligently to try to rectify it, and we're going to have things like this. But my thing is the fight that the guys continue to show. I guess the biggest disappointment throughout the game today would have been our fielding display.
Yeah, of course. The catches that sort of went down as England started to build that partnership in their first innings, perhaps looking back on it, have now cost you a 2-0 lead in the series.
Yeah, and that's the fine line between winning and losing. We lost by about 1 run or 2 runs tonight. So we gave 2 chances, one to Moeen mid wicket and another one down there, and he went out to score 30 odd. These things cost us. But having said that, I thought that the game finished pretty well. So the confidence is high, and it augurs well for the next 3 games in the series. So tough luck for us tonight. A couple of things to work on and see if we can come back better on Wednesday.
Terrific entertainment for the crowd. Would you prefer pitches like that one or the one that you won on yesterday?
Well, 99.9% we rather pitches like what we played on tonight. But again, I think it was a good game of cricket. Hopefully, the fans enjoyed themselves and they can come out on Wednesday again. Okay, great stuff. Thanks for speaking with us. Kyron Pollard, captain of the West Indies. And it certainly was a good game, Kyron. We thoroughly enjoyed your team's part in it. Let's hear from Owen Morgan, who is now joining Butch. Happy with things?
Oh, delighted. And even with the last quarter of the game, with a relatively inexperienced international lineup, there are games that you want to play in. Looking back at the build into the World Cup, we didn't play in many tight games to work on our death hitting and our death bowling. So today's a good example of that. Again, more experience, hopefully the better we will get at executing, but for the majority of today I think we were brilliant. We adapted to conditions well after being stuck in. It wasn't that easy. We managed to build partnerships and take advantage of the short side, but I think a little bit more intent and clarity today than we had yesterday.
Talk to us about the batting, because I know that's been a sort of, not a bugbear, but a sticking point for you in terms of how you consistently post totals when you're asked to bat first. That was a better way of doing it? Was it a conscious effort perhaps to give yourselves more time to get yourselves in?
Yeah, and I think trying to establish the rhythm of the game on wickets out here in Barbados. They're not necessarily wickets where you can have a fluent partnership going. Rotation strike is a little bit harder, so you might go ... boundary, and just trying to get used to that because it's a little bit uneasy for us not working with pace on the ball, but guys did it really well today. So to come back from yesterday in the way that we played, we adapted really well and countered things that the West Indies had to offer.
Now you've got 2 great weapons in Moeen and Rash through the middle part of the innings. Now what about the end? Very, very tough. Great ball striking at the back end. The crowd loved it, very entertaining. However, being able to find a Yorker or being able to find a way to stop those balls going out of the park has got to be the next thing, right?
Yeah, it is. And every team in the world is trying to get better at it. It is the hardest job in T20 cricket, is to bowl death bowling. I probably have to be honest, conditions did get a little bit better towards the end. The ball did skid on as opposed to our innings in the first innings, but ultimately we need to find better ways of going about it. Our execution was nowhere near as good as we would like, and we'd like it to be up there with the best in the world.
I'm guessing that there'll be folks sat at home going, Yorker. Why aren't the guys going for Yorker? Why is it length? Can you enlighten them? Tell them why that's such a
we are. We're just getting it wrong.
Okay.
So the majority of our plan today was to bowl Yorkers, use the long side, and we missed. And that's been brutally honest. The guys are always honest with executing in order to try and move on, identify areas that we can get better, and this is definitely one of them.
Okay, don't want to harp on about the negatives. It was a terrific game, great entertainment. Very well done. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Cheers, Bush. Look forward to it.
Owen Morgan there speaking with Mark Butcher. Well, I tell you what, I was very impressed with the honesty there when asked about going for Yorkers. We were going for them. We ended up just bowling length. I mean, they're missing that in that case, Jared Kimber, by a fairly sizable amount.
It's really hard to tell when a bowler is trying to bowl a Yorker. So the best way we could do it in analysis is a full toss. No one's ever trying to bowl a full toss, so they're probably going for a Yorker. And also, no one ever tries to bowl half volleys, right? They were missing some of those by meters if we are to believe what Owen Morgan says. And we've seen that before. If you go back and look at Ben Stokes versus Carlos Bradford, we have seen players do that before. In fact, Bats' good friend Dirt Nanas once told me that he missed his length by 28 meters in a game when he kept bowling the ball directly to the wicketkeeper and he was trying to bowl a bouncer. These things do happen. That's a worrying sign for me. I don't think they should be going. You can only hit Yorkers about 33% of the time. You miss them so often. I think they should be looking at other things realistically. But if they were going for them and they miss them by that much, that's a very worrying sign. The other thing that Butch may not have noticed is that Chris Jordan didn't bowl out. After going for those runs, he was taken away. And me and Bats were talking about it, and I was saying it'd be interesting to see what happens when he bowls his next over. He didn't bowl his next over. So there's some interesting signs for England going ahead from what was an easy win. Can you call that an easy win? Mathematically, it was an easy win. It didn't feel easy.
Yeah, halfway point, I said West Indies shouldn't get 140. And I still sit here now thinking the two lads at the end played beautifully, but if I'm in there, I'm pretty disappointed that they got as close as they did. If it's execution that's missed slightly, you can live with it, but like you alluded to, I think if the ball's hitting the top of the stumps, you're missing New Yorker by a considerable margin.
Well, that last ball, that was bouncing over the stumps, wasn't it? Saki Mahmood's last ball. I mean, if he was going for a Yorker there, that's a way off.
I would have said he was relatively consistent that last over because every ball was the same length.
Well, let's bring in our big, fast and nasty Steve Harmison at this point. Owen Morgan has just said that England were going for Yorkers, but missed them by quite a considerable amount and ended up as bowling length. What do you make of that, Harmy?
Yeah, I wasn't surprised that he said that missed the length because you could see that they were trying to go for the fuller ball. It worries me that pressure got to some of the players. Saki Mahmood, right at the very end there, he looked as though he wasn't sure where he was going to, and I would imagine if he's got a Lancashire shirt on, he nails his Yorker, not a problem at all. It just tells you what international cricket does to the brain and the mind when not only somebody's coming to you, but you're playing a bigger ground with a big crowd and you're playing for England. So it was disappointing. I think if I was Owen Morgan, I wouldn't have been as calm as I was at the press conference. I know he has to put a show on and he doesn't want to say he's gone in and read the riot act, but did we go into the game yesterday with a little bit complacency and got blown away by the West Indies? And did we get into the last 6 overs of that contest and think, well, game's won, where are we playing golf at tomorrow? So I just wonder if that is something that England need to have a think about, because I think if I was Owen Morgan in that dressing room, I might have just reaffirmed some of the values of what's made this side a great side, which is when you get a team by, on the deck and you've got them by the throat, you keep your foot firmly where it should be, which is the team on the ground. Well,
let's all take our England caps off for a minute and take put a West Indian perspective on this. Romario Shepherd and Akeal Hussain. Wow, two so talented players, and they gave us a grandstand finish, Harmy.
They did. They were magnificent. No fear. No fear cricket is sometimes the hardest cricket sometimes to play. Bats will tell you when you've got nothing to lose and you chance your arm. Sometimes it does go off like it did tonight. I'd look at the top order of the West Indies side if you're putting a West Indian hat on and say how they go about building their innings with the power not just of Shepherd and of Hussain. I'm thinking O'Dane Smith. I'm thinking Fabian Allen. You've got Kyron Pollard in that top 5 with Jason Holder number 6. If you get off to a solid start and you can build a solid start and get yourself in a position to explode like they did there, and they've got the players that they did there tonight, you can see why a lot of West Indian cricket fans are excited about what they've got. So it's getting the ducks in a row. It's getting the being able to build an innings and assess the situation that you're in. And I think once they get that, with a bit more experience, this could be a very, very powerful unit in the shortest format of the game.
Barry Wilkinson is still with us as well. Just imagine you would concur with that basically we're putting building blocks in place for the West Indies, as all teams are. We're all looking forward to the T20 World Cup later on in the year, and it's all about improving and putting those blocks in place, and the West Indies seem to be doing that.
Yeah, indeed they are. And let me tell you, this is why I was so annoyed when the World Cup team was selected, that they went with players who I thought were has-beens rather than players who were the future. Players that they did not show that kind of respect to the criteria that they have, which is form and performance and fitness. Akil Hussain, Romario Shepherd, Odean Smith, these are the players that have been in form for the last 2 years, not the ones that went to the World Cup, or the majority of the ones that went to the World Cup. So it's disappointing that we've waited too late to get the memo that this is the route that we should have been going. I hope we can continue now, keeping the faith with these players and letting those who have not been in form for the West Indies, because a lot of these cricketers are in great form for their franchises, but then they don't bring that form to the West Indies. And this is why I think that we have to keep faith with these crop of players who have been showing that they're beginning to peak for West Indies cricket.
I'll tell you what, Barry Wilkinson would be a great broadcaster if he only had an opinion and got off the fence. I mean, blimey, wow. I mean, that's pretty strong stuff, Barry.
To be honest, Mac, I'm going to jump in here because the first half of the question you asked him, he couldn't hear because he didn't have cans on. So that was a great answer. Great answer from a man who didn't hear the question properly.
I was just guessing what he said. I picked it up. I hope I got the line and length right.
Well, that is why you are the king of Barbados. You got it absolutely perfectly and straight out the middle of the bat, and you dispatched it to all parts.
That was like Akil Hussain then.
It absolutely was. It absolutely was. It was great entertainment this evening, and the crowd most definitely enjoyed it. And I'll keep making this point. The fact that we do have a crowd, yes, it is only a percentage of capacity, but having done the West Indies Island games a couple of a week or two back now, where they had no fans in Jamaica, it makes such a difference, doesn't it, boys?
It does, but I'm happy to see the Brits here. But I was just looking outside in the back of the car park. The car park is virtually empty, and the reason is that because the Brits are here, they haven't got any cars. They're taking taxis. So I think only if you strain the crowd, you'll be left with just about 1,000 fans. I'll be very honest. There are not a lot of local fans here, believe it or not. They're just about, I think, 1,000 out of 5,000 or 6,000 spectators, only about 1,000 local fans, and that's disappointing. I'm hoping that will improve since they have seen that the West Indies can win and be competitive. We've got Wednesday, you've still got next weekend. I think you're going to see the fans beginning to come on a bit more. The Cricket West Indies have actually slashed the ticket prices by 50% because they recognise that the cost of the tickets were really high, and also you have to try and encourage locals to come out. They're not going to come out at the kind of prices that they were charging. I think it was like almost 80 quid your conversion for a ticket. Which is a bit much. Yeah, like about 80 quid. So, it was pretty expensive, and I think that Cricket West Indies have recognised, and they said, look, we're going to slash the ticket prices for locals, 50%. I think you had to buy more than one. I think you had to buy something like two, but that's fine, because you probably just bring a friend or whatever. But the ticket prices have now been more encouraging, and I think Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday next week, you'll begin to see a much better local crowd mixed in with the Brits that are here. But we love the Brits because they've kept the game alive. They really brought the spirit at Kensington Oval. It made it look like cricket is on again, because I lost faith when Australia were here last year in August, when there was behind closed doors. It was just, I don't want to say boring, but it just wasn't cricket to me. To play Australia with Stark running in and there's no one watching except the media, it's not really cricket, is it?
Well, let's be perfectly honest. The Australians can do that to you. I mean, an awful lot of Brits have lost the faith in the last few weeks, thanks to Australia. But that's probably an entirely different conversation. As Barry mentioned, we've got 3 games more in the series. Wednesday evening, and then it is a couple of days break after that, and it is Saturday and Sunday next weekend. So it'll be really interesting to see if we can get some more people in the stands, and particularly the locals as well, because this West Indian side certainly are a lively side and an entertaining one to watch as well. Gareth Batty, just looking from an England perspective, we know Owen Morgan has said that they might try and rotate things around, tinker with things a little bit, probably with the bowling side more than the batting, you would suspect, with workloads and all of that. Bearing in mind what we've seen today, how would you potentially see England maybe changing or not changing for Wednesday's third game?
I think Livingston, had he not have had the sort of illness that's been kicking around, would have been playing these games. So I think he comes back in as long as he's okay. I think we'll just see some kind of a rotation policy with the big bowlers, the seam bowlers. I think it's very difficult for them to play lots of back-to-back games. I don't think we'll see Mills play Saturday and Sunday, so whether he plays Wednesday and then Saturday or Sunday and he filters and dovetails in with another bowler, I think if we look at the game today, we would say that Topley out of the fast bowlers was the shining light, got the ball to swing back in nicely with the new ball, looked like taking wickets early, and came back with a high-pressure death over in the 19th. So you would say that he's done himself no harm today, but we do know that there are 4 left-arm seamers in this squad, and you would anticipate, particularly the way that if you look at anything and you say we want to win these games, not just look at rotation, etc., you want to probably get another one in there because of the way that the West Indian batters look to strike the ball. They all want to be a bit more sort of modern-day T20 striking from sort of long off right the way around to sort of mid-wicket and be very expansive with a full flow of the bat. The left-arm angle does make that a bit more difficult if you get it right.
Well, I'm delighted to say that Rhys Topley is joining us here on TalkSport 2 on the Following On podcast. Rhys, thank you very much for joining us. What a game of cricket that was.
Hi. It was probably closer than we'd have liked, but the result was what we wanted nonetheless. It was just a good night. I think the crowd were entertained. Certainly sounded like they were behind me, so I think everyone was happy with the result.
On a personal level, your first T20 international since March of 2016. How did it feel pulling the shirt back on and actually being able to get out there in England colours once again?
Yeah, it didn't feel too peculiar, to be honest, because I've played some one-day games and the group's fairly similar. So, no, it was just a pretty easy transition, and I was just grateful to have the opportunity, to be honest.
4 overs, 1 for 18, and you also had a very significant part in another wicket with the run-out of Shai Hope. Let's get straight on to that. What a piece of skill that was, just not even trying to pick up the ball, but just batting it onto the stumps.
Yeah, honestly, I switched off into autopilot a bit there. I didn't know what I'd actually done until I stood up afterwards. It was just one of those things, like, I suppose you train, and then I relied on a bit of whatever I've done in training to just get me through that, because I just reacted, and it was the right thing to do. So I'd be lying if I went into too much detail about it.
Well, are you aware you actually did yourself out of a wicket for your own column, because had you reviewed the LBW shout, because it came off the boot, they put the technology on it and it was out LBW. So if I were you, I'd be getting on to the match referee Richie Richardson and say, can we amend it please to LBW Topley? Yeah,
I mean, the LBW came first, so I don't know what the laws of the game are, but we need to get that changed, in my opinion. I'm joking. It's like, yeah, we got the wicket, and happy with the performance, and I suppose I was just happy that I got the run out, and happy with the result.
Hi, Toppers, it's Bats. Great,
Hi, Coach.
Great. How are you, pal? Brilliant night for you, buddy. Just talk us through, for the people still in England up late at night, just talk them through that 19th over. What were you thinking? It must have been exhilarating in a good and a bad way, because obviously you came out of your over brilliantly, but the ball's disappearing everywhere. Tell us what's going through your mind?
Firstly, I think as a bowler, it's just, I'm not saying you want those scenarios, but you just have to be sort of hungry when the ball's thrown to you. You're always going to, especially as a seamer, you're always going to bowl either up top or at the death, and I think you've got to not shy away from those. And I think once you realise you're going to be on the bad side of some and you're going to be on the good side of some, it's a bit, I'd almost say it's like a keeper in a penalty shootout where no one expects you to save it, but same with the death, like no one expects you to not get hit for a boundary, but it's almost like you're ruining the party a bit by just going for ones and stuff like that. I just stood at the back of my mark, and I just said to Morgs, what field do you want? Where do you want me to bowl it? And he said here. And then at the top of your mark, I think the hardest thing as a fast bowler is just committing at the top of your mark. You've got to separate the what's happened before in the game and just focus on the now, because I think that's just a fast bowler's challenge. You get flustered sometimes, you get carried away with emotions. The home crowd got very noisy towards the end, and you just got to isolate each ball and just focus on it really.
It sounds like there's a bit of action going on in the background there, buddy. We don't want to keep you too long. I'm sure there's a bit of celebration to go on after a few years and getting back out there. But what's the plans for the group and yourself for the next few days?
Some lads will play golf tomorrow. I think. I don't know. I probably won't. I'll probably head to the beach. I don't know, just treat it like a bit of a holiday, really. Like we're saying, a nice hotel, good weather, nice sea. So just make the most of it before we get back to rainy England.
Well deserved, buddy. Go well the rest of the trip, pal.
Cheers, that.
Reece, thank you very much for joining us here on TalkSport 2. Welcome back to T20 International Cricket. What a game to do it in. England have won the game by 1 run, posting 171 for 8. Remember, the par score, or the average first innings score at Barbados in T20 internationals, 155. So England above par on that. The West Indies almost getting there, 170 for 8. So England win by 1 run. It makes the series 1-1 after 2 games. The third match is on Wednesday evening.